You are a project manager on a hybrid project using an agile approach and in the process of costing work to be done. How would you likely proceed? Is it A, flexible cost, B, flexible schedule, C, fixed scope, or D, fixed cost? If you need more time, do hit the pause button. Best answer to choose in the light of this being an agile project is exemplified in the inverted triangle as presented by DSDM in the Agile Practice Guide. You do recall that in the world of predictive, we often have scope fixed. And in the world of agile, we have the scope as flexible. But the schedule and the budget in agile, remember, schedule and budget are now fixed. In the world of traditional, schedule and budget are estimated or flexible, if you will. So, my friends, in light of this, the best answer is none other than D. This is agile where the cost is fixed. Let's move on. Next question. You are the project manager on a hybrid project using an agile approach and in the process of costing work to be done. How would you likely proceed? Hit the pause button if you need more time. Again, based on what I just showed you, we understand that in the world of agile, schedule and budget are fixed. So it can't be A that says flexible cost. It can't be D that says fixed scope. And it can't be B that says flexible schedule because we know the schedule is fixed. So the best answer here, my friends, is none other than option C. This is agile where there's flexible scope and fixed schedule and fixed cost. Let's move on to the next one. What is the key benefit of the planned cost management process? All right, hit the pause button if you need more time. So remember, this is the very first thing you're doing in cost management, and therefore, anything that prescribes a future activity is wrong, or anything that prescribes a previous activity already done is wrong. So right off the bat, let's take a look at D. Creates a comprehensive budget document that defines the basis of all the work. This is wrong. The budget comes after we have planned cost management. C says links the project to the strategic WBS of the performing organization. That is a bogus statement that doesn't make sense. B determines the project budget and monetary resources. It does not do that. This comes later. So the best option, my friends, in light of this is provides guidance and direction on how project costs will be managed. Let's move on. You are a project manager on a small-sized asset integrity in the initiation phase. You are computing a rough order of magnitude ROM estimate. What range of accuracy would you expect for such an estimate? Do hit the pause button for more time. I will reveal the answer shortly. When we're talking a rough order of magnitude, it is not very accurate. So you could guess by taking a look at the one that is so accurate, you immediately know it cannot be D. That is pretty accurate. It is not C because the numbers don't match. And B is a little bit too accurate for it to be a rough order of magnitude. The ROM spans across 100 points, and you have minus 25 in the direction on the number line. So if you're thinking of positive and negative, just think about the smaller number being on this side and the big number, the plus 75, is on this side. And that's how you can remember, but it spans across 100 points. It's like a hit or miss if you really wanted to boil it down. But the best answer, my friends, based on the facts and figures you've got in the PMBOK guide, is A. The range is minus 25 to plus 75%. Moving on, Jill is working on estimating the cost of individual work packages to the greatest level of specified detail. She then summarizes the estimated cost to higher levels for tracking purposes. Which tool and technique does this describe? Do hit the pause button for more time. I will reveal the answer. So the answer to this, my friends, when we talk about going down to the lowest levels, this is not analogous, neither is it 3-point, and it does not describe parametric. This is talking specifically about bottom-up estimating. Going down to the granular levels and rolling up. Next question. You have completed all the work package cost estimates. What is the outcome of the process of aggregating the estimated costs of individual activities or work packages? All right, do hit the pause button for more time. So this could easily be guessed, even if you didn't know what the answer is straight up. But straight up, you should know the answer. But the outcome of aggregating the estimated cost, which means the costs are estimated. So it can't be cost estimates, right? Because the costs are estimated. It can't be cost forecasts, because that's something we do in the controlling of cost to forecast the future based on the current conditions. So a cost forecast is not a plan, it is a projection based on current conditions. So it can't be A, because we're still talking about estimates. It cannot be data analysis because there's nothing to analyze. All we have is what we're planning. We also don't have project reports, so it can't be that. Now, straight up, the best answer is C, because that's what you get from the determined budget process. You get your cost baseline and you get project funding requirements. This is the funding requirements for the project in total and also periodically. So the best answer, my friends, is C. Straight up, those are the outputs you get from determined budget. Let's take a look at a few other questions before we get into the more difficult ones. Here is another question. Your project metrics are as follows. BAC is 50K, EV is 10K, AC 30K, EAC 60K. What is the CPI? All right, my friends, I gave you a little bit more time for the computation. So here's the answer. This question gives you everything you need, but there's some stuff that you don't need. You don't need the budget at completion. You don't need the estimate at completion. All you need is the two variables for CPI. CPI is earned value divided by actual cost. And this gives us EV of 10K divided by AC of 30K. I want you to observe how the dollar sign will be canceled and the K's will obviously be canceled, and that leaves 10 divided by 30, which we all know as 0.3333, the never-ending number. But when you take a look at this, it's not 30K and it's not 30. It also is not B because it has a dollar sign. Cost performance index is just an index without the dollar sign because they canceled. Remember in what we did. So the best answer is D. I know it looks very tricky, but this is how the exam is. So you got to know your metrics really well and what CPI truly is. It's an index. All right, so the best answer is D. Let's go ahead and take a look at yet another simple question. This will go very quickly. Based on these metrics, what is the SV? Hit the pause button if you need more time. Okay, my friends. So let's jump straight into the answer. From the world of earned value, you already know that the schedule variance is earned value minus planned value. All the metrics start with EV, as you know, right? So the schedule variance is going to be 10K because we don't need the AC and we don't need the EAC, right? So we just need the 10K in dollars minus the 40K, okay? This will give you a minus dollar sign, $30,000. So the answer is not 0.25 and it's not a plain 30. The answer is also not 30K because that is positive. This is unfavorable. So the best answer, my friends, the right answer is A, minus 30K. And that is how you need to think about these questions and how to process the questions and look out for trickery. A lot of trickery or seemingly tricky, okay? Also be aware of things like this. If you have an SPI of 0.5, CV of 5, an SV of minus $50, a CPI of 1.01, and an SPI of 3.09, you should be able to come up with what these mean. And let's throw in a CPI of 0.65. Can you quickly decide what these are? Okay, I will reveal the answers. 0.5, first of all, tell yourself, is this an index or a variance? It's an index. Indices less than 1 are unfavorable. So this is bad. It's bad schedule performance. You're behind schedule. What about this? This is positive. It's $5. This means in terms of cost, you are $5 under budget. This is not bad. This is actually good. Taking a look at SV of minus $50, this means there's $50 worth of work that you did not get done in whatever time box you're looking at. This is behind schedule, not good. This 1.01 is greater than 1 slightly. This is not bad at all. In fact, this is good performance, and performance like this will actually not get you in trouble, actually make you look good because you're under budget. Now, if you are so much under budget, that could be a concern. As in this example with schedule, you are so far ahead of schedule that this is problematic. This means you are accelerating at 3.09 times the speed of getting stuff done that you originally promised. This is problematic. Even though you are far ahead of schedule, we need to investigate why is this happening. Last but not least, a CPI of 0.65. This is poor cost performance, I beg your pardon, and this means you are over budget. And that is a very quick review of the items at a simple to intermediate level. We're going to change gears here, my friends, and we're going into some more difficult questions. So let's go into some more cost questions of the difficult variety. You are a project manager in the construction industry overseeing the construction of a new office building. During planning, a cost baseline and earned value methods were decided upon. During the execution phase, after framing work is completed, a shortage of construction framing materials leads to a significant increase of such materials in the marketplace. At present, Cost Performance Index CPI is 1.01 and Schedule Performance Index SPI is 0.76. What should you do next to manage these project conditions? What should you do next to manage these project conditions? A, collaborate with the procurement team to explore alternative suppliers for framing materials and negotiate better prices to manage the poor cost performance. B, look for opportunities to crash or fast track the project to bring current conditions in line with the project plan while optimizing budget. C, communicate the cost deviation to the project stakeholders and seek their input on adjusting the project budget. And D, update the project management plan to reflect the revised cost estimates and allocate additional funds. I'll give you some time to think about this and reread it. All right, my friends, let us break this question down. There are some key words you need to be aware of. This is one of the key words that you needed to have taken notice of. It said, during the execution phase, after framing work is completed. So be aware that framing work is completed. So a shortage of such materials in the marketplace isn't really going to affect you. Could it be that there's some additional framing stuff that needs to be done? It's possible, but right now it says framing work is completed. It also reads, the cost performance index is 1.01. That's actually under budget. So you're not in dire straits as far as the budget is concerned. SPI is 0.76. That is a problem. You are behind schedule. So your major focus, it says, what should you do next to manage these project conditions? And the project conditions are your cost performance index, which is looking good, and your schedule performance index, which is deplorable. So your focus is going to be on the schedule, not the cost for those reasons. So A, collaborate with the procurement team to explore alternative suppliers for framing materials. You don't have to do that. Framing's being done. That is not a problem. And it says to manage the poor cost performance. The cost performance isn't poor. B, look for opportunities to crash or fast track the project to bring current conditions in line with the project plan while optimizing budget. It's not a bad idea. Let's look at anything else. C, communicate the cost deviation to the project stakeholders and seek their input on adjusting the project budget. There's no cost deviation, so that is incorrect. And D states, update the project management plan to reflect the revised cost estimates and allocate additional funds. Well, at this point, we're not looking at any additional funds because the framing work is done. We don't need any revised cost estimates. We just need to optimize whatever we have as our budget. Keep on the good work. So the best answer, my friends, is B. That is the best answer. Okay. I'll scroll through very slowly so that you can go back and read more about the rationale. Okay. So the answer is B. Look for opportunities to crash or fast track. And with the framing work already completed and no current cost issues, the focus should be on managing the schedule deviation. By expediting critical activities, allocating additional resources, or resequencing tasks, the project manager can mitigate schedule delay and align the project's progress with the original plan. Make sense? Okay. While collaborating with the procurement team, option A, and exploring alternative suppliers could be relevant in other situations, it doesn't address the schedule. Communicating the progress, again, that was bogus because there was no problem, right? And then updating the project management plan, it's something that you could do, but you got to first look at the schedule, okay? And it wouldn't be for cost reasons. All right, my friends, let's take a look at the next question, number 11. As a project manager in the pharmaceutical industry, you are leading a clinical trial project. During the planning stage, a cost baseline was determined and earned value rules of performance were decided upon. During the execution phase, unexpected regulatory changes result in additional compliance requirements, leading to increased project cost. What should you do next to manage this cost deviation effectively? Now, let me just say this question is written with a lot of fluff, just like the real exam, because we've heard that the real exam has a lot of fluff in some of the questions. So this is to get you up to that speed. I'm going to let you read and decide, and I'll be back with the answer. All right, my friends, let's take a look at the options. So you understand that unexpected regulatory changes, here's the crux of the matter. Let's go ahead and highlight it. During the execution phase, unexpected regulatory changes result in additional compliance requirements, and this leads to increased project costs. So what should you do next to manage this cost deviation effectively? Now, there's some things that are not in the right sequence. For example, update the project management plan to reflect the revised cost estimates, earn value metrics and budget allocation, then perform a quality impact analysis. Sounds clever, but it's not right. You would actually do a quality impact analysis first, but just going ahead to update the project management plan to reflect revised cost estimates. When did the cost estimates get revised? So that's suspicious. We're going to cancel that. Because you don't just revise cost estimates, you have to go through the analysis and so on first. So let's look at B. Communicate the cost deviation to project stakeholders and seek their input on adjusting the project budget. Well, while this sounds well-meaning, you don't just go to stakeholders and say, oh, what do you think about adjusting the project budget? How can we do that? Oh, there's a cost deviation and then no additional information? No. So while this sounds good, this is premature. You wouldn't do this right now. You would first of all understand the full gamut of whatever you're looking at cost-wise, right? Let's move on to the next one. It says, collaborate with regulatory authorities to explore cost-saving alternatives without compromising compliance. Now, that's not a bad thing, but as a project manager, it is not what you would do first. You need to understand the full impact of this regulatory change on your project, or as much as possible. D states assess the impact of the regulatory changes on the project's cost baseline and examine opportunities to revise the cost estimates. That's not a bad thing to do. You are going to have to revise something at some point. and maybe filtering through and looking for where there's wiggle room in the cost estimates makes sense. So the best answer here, my friends, is D. Now, it took a little time to go through, but this is how the exam is. And this is why you need to be very quick in reading through and making your judgment very quickly. It's not about the volume of the questions you do, my friends. It's about the quality of the questions. And I dare say this is a quality question on par with what you're going to find on the exam, all right? So the answer is D. By assessing the impact of the regulatory changes on the project cost baseline and examining opportunities for revising cost estimates, the project manager and ensure that the project's financial resources are appropriately allocated to accommodate the increased cost. And I have a lot more about the explanations, but I'm not going to go through it all. You can read it off grid. Okay. All right, let's go to the next question. Number 12. You are a project manager in the construction industry, overseeing the construction of a new office building. During the execution phase, a shortage of construction materials from a sole source contractor leads to a significant increase in procurement costs and the project schedule. What should you do next to manage this cost deviation appropriately? I'll give you time to read the answers, and I'll be back. All right, my friends, let's take a look at the options. So there's a few keywords that you need to be aware of here. And the first keyword is with regards to the vendor. It says a shortage of construction materials from a sole source contractor. This is pivotal to you getting the correct answer. And then it says leads to significant delays in two areas, in cost, procurement cost, and the project schedule. What should you do next to manage this cost deviation appropriately? So there's two variables here. There's cost and there's schedule. And in order to manage this cost deviation appropriately, you got to contain everything that is affected. Now, there are some things that are beyond your jurisdiction, beyond your control. A, collaborate with the procurement team to explore alternative suppliers. There ain't no alternative suppliers for sole source contractors, my friends. So that is immediately wrong because the question of alternative suppliers cannot be answered here. You shouldn't even ask it, right? Because it's a sole source contractor, which means only that contractor can provide this particular construction material, whatever that is. It could be a prefab thing, but whatever the case, they're the only ones. That removes A. Let's take a look at B. Assess the impact of the schedule deviation caused by the contractor and seek schedule shortening options. That kind of refers to crashing and fast tracking, but it says assess the impact of the schedule deviation. Now, yes, there is schedule deviation, but what about the cost deviation? So this is incomplete and not the best option. C, communicate the cost deviation to the project stakeholders and seek their input on adjusting the project budget. Now, while this isn't a bad thing, it, number one, doesn't address the schedule, but number two, you don't go to the stakeholders to say, Mother, may I, or help me, parent, because that's kind of like the mindset going to a higher power. So while it sounds good, it's not the best option. You need to first of all understand what the impact is, and then you go through the change control board. That would be the better option. But in the absence of that, it goes to D, assess the impact of the deviations on the project overall. And that's good. So both deviations, whatever that might be, cost and schedule, assess it overall, and brainstorm for solutions to problems. That is right in the wheelhouse of performing a greater change control. So that, my friends, is why D is the best answer. You got to focus on both, not just one. And you also got to bring the team along for the ride. Okay. It's not something that you would do in isolation. So the best answer is D. Assess the impact of the deviation on the overall budget and financial feasibility and everything else. Schedule, not just budget, but schedule and everything else. When facing a shortage of construction materials from a sole source contractor, it is essential to assess the impact of the deviations on the project as a whole. This involves evaluating the cost deviation, schedule delay, and potential implications to project quality, scope, stakeholder commitments, so on and so forth. By conducting a comprehensive assessment, the project manager can gain a holistic understanding of the situation. Okay, yada, yada. Here's our final one for this section of our question bank. As a project manager in the financial and banking industry, you're leading the implementation of a new digital banking platform. Although there are management reserves, most of the contingency reserves have been maxed out. During the execution phase, you realize that additional cybersecurity measures are required to protect customer data, resulting in higher project costs. What should you do next to manage this cost deviation? I'll give you some time to think about it. All right, my friends, let's take a look at the question. It says, during the execution phase, you realize that additional cybersecurity measures are required. So this isn't negotiable, obviously. This is something that needs attention because it is what it is. Additional cybersecurity measures are required to protect customer data. Very important. So what should you do next? Let's take a look. A, communicate the cost deviation to the project stakeholders and seek their approval on adjusting the project budget. This is not what you do first. There's no need to go immediately to the project stakeholders. You got to first of all figure out what this is touching, who is it affected, and so on and so forth. So, B, collaborate with cybersecurity experts to explore cost-effective solutions without compromising data security to accommodate these sudden changes or sudden increases. Again, it's not a bad thing to do, but it's not what you would immediately gravitate towards. You got to know some stuff for yourself, understand what it is touching, and know the far-reaching implications before you move ahead. And actually, you can take this as a blueprint and a model and apply this to your actual exam by always asking the question, do I know what it's touching? Do I truly know what is being affected? And if the answer is no, then you cannot select that. Let's take a look at C. Conduct a cost-benefit analysis to evaluate the potential value and impact of the additional cybersecurity measures on the project. Now, That doesn't sound like a bad option, but let's take a look at D. D just talks about updating the project management plan to reflect the revised cost estimates and additional funds. Think about it. Would you update the plan immediately? Think about that. Can you? Is that something you can do? Because this is obviously budget related. So, my friends, in light of that, the best answer is none other than C. Conduct a cost benefit analysis. That is what makes the most sense, and that is the right answer. Do a cost benefit analysis to evaluate what is the value of this stuff. That's one. And number two, the impacts. The impact was not first and foremost in the sentence, but it's buried in there. You always got to assess the impact, understand, do an analysis of sorts. So, my friends, the answer is D. The C, I beg your pardon, conduct a cost benefit analysis. D, even though it sounds like something you would do, you wouldn't do that now. It's something you would do later after going through change control and after getting approval of those funds. So the best answer is C. All right. So with that, we have come to the near endpoint of our journey today, but it wouldn't be complete without us having one of our crazy questions from the insanely difficult bank. Now, today's question is not absolutely insane like the previous ones we've looked at. This is a rather softball one considering. So let's go to our special question for today. And it reads, you are working on a significant international project with a very large budget involving stakeholders from every continent who have agreed on a project charter. You study cultures and norms in order to be an effective project manager. Despite your efforts, due to cross-cultural differences, stakeholders of this significant international project refuse to approve the created project management plan. What should the project manager have done to mitigate this issue? I'll give you some time to read it. All right. So what's the language? Mitigate. This is talking about a reduction. So what should the project manager have done to reduce the likelihood of this happening, to reduce the risk? So A, trains the team on common communication language. What does that even mean? That's bogus. So it's not A. It's like saying train everyone on how to speak English. It's not sensible, it's not viable. B, requested earlier feedback from stakeholders during project initiation. Well, let's look at what is happening. It says, who have agreed on a project charter? And then it says, despite your efforts, due to this thing, cross-cultural differences, stakeholders refuse to approve the created project management plan. So what could you have done in initiating is the question, or what could you have done prior? So requested earlier feedback from the stakeholders on the plan? That wouldn't have changed because it says they've agreed on a project charter. So obviously, earlier feedback during initiation on a plan is not even doable. Doesn't make sense. So we're going to cancel B. Let's take a look at C and D. C says reviewed or updated the issue log to reflect that the project management plan may not receive approval. Well, let's think about it. The issue log is typically documented in executing in the direct to manage project work process. So this is earlier on. It is a little bit premature. Documenting something in the issue log actually doesn't do a whole lot. It's like completing paperwork, even though this paperwork is way early, not to say that we couldn't have issues earlier on, but it just said review the issue log. The likelihood of an issue log existing right now is very slim. And even if it did, just reviewing the issue log may not really make an impact. And it says to reflect that the project plan may not receive approval. That doesn't even make sense. How would you have known that? So we're going to cancel C and hope that the next one really gives us something that we can work with. D, updated the stakeholder register. Okay. And paid attention to non-verbal cues because body language and tone of voice trump everything else. So it is likely that the project manager would have, one, updated stakeholder register to reflect the individuals and their dispositions, and paid attention to tone of voice, body language, and things like that. In light of what we're seeing, I think if the project manager had indeed paid more attention to the stakeholders, nonverbal cues, especially, there could have been some detection. See, because these are cross-cultural differences, and these should have been updated, and these should have been addressed. So the best answer, my friends, is D. Very subjective question, very much in the middle of the road, but I can assure you, you will get questions of an in the middle of the road nature on the PMP exam. It's just how it is. It is rather in the middle of the road sometimes. Whenever you have stakeholders across regions, you should pay attention to the cultural elements. It says significant international project. Take a look at that. Okay, forget about the large budget. Stakeholders from every continent. And it says you study cultures and norms. Yeah, you should have paid attention to those nonverbal cues as well. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of another interesting episode of your PMP exam difficult questions. I know some of my friends, they scratch their heads at the end of each one and they're like, it can't be fail, it should be this option. Well, the honest truth is that the exam is very, very subjective, but these questions I'm giving you are done in that same spirit to push you to the brink, to the edge, where you get an aha moment and you understand why the question is what it is. You take that model and you apply it on your exam. So I hope hearing me think some of these out aloud has helped you. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when I have another one of these videos available. Remember what I said in the middle. I told you it's more about the quality of the questions than the quantity. I have a whole bunch of questions out there, but the questions that I'm giving you now have been updated to reflect how the exam feel and bend is currently. So if you're feeling very comfortable with these, more power to you. If you're feeling uncomfortable and you need further prep, you need further help, I encourage you, look for help as soon as you can, close the gaps, get good before your exam, okay? If you need help in particular with your PMP exam prep and you're looking for solutions that can help you, I want to encourage you to go on down to our site. It's Praizion.com. That's Praizion.com. Also, take a look at my radio show, the PMP Exam Radio Show at pmradio.org. And also take a look at my second podcast, 40 Days to PMP Exam Success. You can find it on Spotify, you can find it on Amazon and everywhere. Just type in 40days.pmradio.org or type in study.pmradio.org. Okay, study.pmradio.org, and that will lead you to the Apple version of the podcast. Thank you very much for joining. I wish you all the best. Shout out to those students of mine who passed the PMP recently. A shout out to Lawan, a shout out to Stephanie, a shout out to Victor, and a shout out to all the others who have cracked the exam code. Talk to you soon, and bye for now.